Episode 1 of the Fit24 Podcast. Today we're going to go over, you're going to go over today what it is that this podcast intends to be as we keep moving forward and progressing.
Yeah, so let's jump straight into it then. So this podcast is basically going to be about our journey. So we've always said we wish we started filming from the start. This is our start. As much as it's not the start of everything now, it is the point where we're going to start filming from. So on our podcast, there'll be 3 different subcategories. There'll be times where we have a guest like Josh today. There'll be times where we have a member who will just tell us the member journey, their journey that they've been on, and there'll be times where we'll have other people who own businesses who will give us their insights as well. As I'm sure there will be fewer different sections, but that's mainly what we'll be covering.
Yeah, and again, because over the years, we've met so many people, obviously through the membership base, people that have chosen to join us that we're laughing at. So, and again, going back to people who have chosen to join us that run their own businesses, have their own stories, that obviously we would like to take this opportunity of what we've created here to be able to share that with the rest of the membership base. If people require their services, then there's potentially a direct in there for them. But again, to support the people that have supported us along the way by helping them promote their business and things like that. And again, because we've learned from this experience that, marketing and getting out there more is something that is valuable, especially to small businesses in small areas. But it's very hard, it's very difficult, and again, it's a learning curve, which I believe all the hours that we've spent knowing that we should have done this and we haven't, we should have just made the decision, started it, and then just started to nurture the process as we go to get better.
Yeah. So Josh, do you want to introduce yourself, tell everyone who's watching where you're from? Because obviously we know that you work for us, not everyone else might not.
So
do you work for me?
I hope so. I've got a sweatshirt on. So for those of you that don't know, my name's Josh. I work up in the club in Seaham, which if you're from Hull is about 162 miles away from here.
If you want to look at us while you're talking to us.
Yeah. I
was talking to the camera.
Yeah, I'm introducing myself.
Got it.
And obviously for the people that don't know or might have seen us, basically do what Riley does up in the club in Seaham, which is speak to people who are looking to sign up for memberships. I also deliver coaching and classes in Seaham, so I get a pretty 360 perspective on not only people's start of the journey with us, but how they obviously move through the club as they either gain more confidence and want to branch out into different forms of training, or also get to see people and how they potentially move with the marketing and everything that we're doing from the position they're in, who might have been members since we opened, which for seems like 2.5 years ago, to the point where because of the content that we're now creating and getting better at, we're putting them in different positions and speaking to people more often through content, through in person, to move into like different areas that we're now expanding to as a club and like company.
Yeah, because I think on the back of that, what I seem to see a lot of on social media is that people going like big gyms, like the 3 that we have, don't have communities. But touching on that, obviously, and again, like this conversation isn't scripted, so we just hope to organically flow in a good direction that gains people's interest. But I see a lot of advertising now where small group facilities advertise great communities and also like throw shade on larger establishments, larger gyms, as if they don't have a community.
Yeah.
But yet, again, like we said earlier, like we know a lot of our members. A lot of our members obviously know us and engage with us. That's the whole reason why obviously we've decided to start this podcast. And obviously one of the main benefits of doing it is to bring these people in that are part of the community and speak to them about why they joined us in the first place, what their initial sort of journey was and where the journey's now got to. And again, like then tell us about themselves and their own stories in and outside of health, fitness, gym, training and so on. And again, I'd just like to touch upon that because I think we do really well at building a community, like within the clubs. Nothing's a faceless transition, so it's not as if you're signing up online, coming into the club with a code where you don't speak to anybody. You have to speak to somebody before you actually enter the club, for the first time to train.
Yeah.
There's always a member of staff on site, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We manage our own socials, so when somebody's asking a question, like there's always somebody behind it. And again, like I think a lot of marketing now is directed as if like our size of club wouldn't have that community feel. But again, I think we're big advocates of that community. Just obviously, again, want to know what your thoughts are, especially obviously with you being so far away from Hull. What do you believe? Because I believe I know why Seam's grown so much, but what do you believe is part of the driving force behind it?
Yeah, I think it's probably worth starting, because I think we've had this conversation collectively a few times about, like, I've worked for pretty much every existing large-scale operator as an individual, from like your super premium clubs, which we'll not name, but talking like 150, 160 pound a month, who on all of their advertisements describe themselves as big family oriented communities. And from my perspective, one of the main reasons why I moved on from working in these places is because despite their advertising pushing that, the essence was never there, the effort was never there, and nothing that they actually ever did from the top down perspective ever made me feel like when I was working there that there was any actual care or concern regarding building, cultivating, introducing new things to the community that were like the paying members. I think once CM opened, I remember us all sitting down for a conversation, and one of the big things that I noticed that was more shocking, with having sort of no prior history of Fit24 before we opened, because obviously it was brand new to the area, was almost like a lot of skepticism from me sitting down with you for the first conversation. You're going, I want to reinvest as much as possible. I want to sit down. We're going to create a timetable based on what the members want. I want to put these things in place where we're going to give away so much for free based on the members' experience and how we want them to like move through the clubs. We're going to build an entire member journey out, because everything is essentially so member centric that that's what Fit24 as a brand is. And I think what people potentially don't even realise outside of Fit24 is that there are genuine clubs and gyms that exist that do have that as their sort of main priority, but I do also think that we're potentially the only person that actually does it and like lives it. So yeah.
Well, again, I think when you look at like the price point, you know, like we are the cheapest in the market, but at one point we probably was, and obviously then the journey that we've then gone on to obviously build out of like that lower end budget club sort of status, to then being in a position where we can regularly reinvest back into the clubs, whether it be something, you know, more visual from, say, for example, like, you know, upgrading the actual presentation and look and how the actual building's done, to then the actual functionality and like equipment, say, for example, what then obviously is what the members obviously ultimately pay to use. I think, you know, we've gone through our journey ourselves over, like me especially, I've been doing this coming up to like 14, 15 years now. So going through that transition of just having one gym and then going, oh, this is great, like I'm a young guy, I own this gym, I love training, it's fantastic. Not really understanding though, like profit and loss and that kind of thing, to then being in a position now where, you know, we employ quite a big team of people that obviously are required to obviously keep that service going to the community that we're on about. But then again, like venturing into Seaham, 132 miles away, you know, from this particular club here, it was like a real test of model. Will it work? Will my idea work? Will what we want to bring to an area work? A lot of people said, you know, you're stupid. 27,000 people live in Seaham. Why would you be invested into like a club that size? But again, like fitness and health is so fashionable now for everybody for multiple different reasons. Whether people just like to go because they enjoy it, whether people go because it makes them feel better, or they do actually have goals and targets to achieve, and then obviously they end up on a continuous journey of going to the gym for whether it be social reasons or physical reasons, you know, or even now there's a lot of obviously around mental health reasons as well. But going back into when we started, when CM opened especially, we didn't have any form of like belief in marketing really. So the idea of me to like open a facility, no matter how much it was going to cost me, and how much we was going to invest, was always going to be based upon, we are going to open the best possible facility we can. We're going to get one person through the door. That one person is then going to multiply, and we're going to ultimately try and provide that big of a service. We can provide enough momentum to where one person very quickly turns into 100, and then obviously ends up like compounding and going upwards that way. Obviously you've been on that journey with us. Seeing obviously was difficult for obviously challenges that was coming here, there and everywhere that we didn't really see coming. But we ultimately got there in the end. Obviously opened up, like you said, you come from obviously another operator within the fitness space, but you was on that journey with us, and obviously you've been here for 5 years.
5 years in February. Yeah.
5 years in February with us, and obviously again your role's obviously gone from, you know, coming on board, telling us, yeah, I can create some content and that kind of stuff, to obviously now doing what you're doing with us. You know, again, do you want to go into a little bit more detail around that?
What on my journey, on how I started?
Yeah, your journey, you know, what you do now day to day.
So for me, day to day, when we did CM was a lot different. So when we did CM, I was a club manager running just this site, and I said, we knew that about the CM, and my job was, well, he said to me, right, Riley, you're going to go up there, just need to put the systems that we use here day to day up there, be there for a couple of days, be fine. Ended up being a couple of weeks because we couldn't get the Wi-Fi working for, how long was that?
Yeah,
2-3 weeks we couldn't get Wi-Fi in that building.
Yeah.
So I was up there for a while. And I think for me...
Because I know it sounds daft as well, sorry to interrupt you there, but like in Hull we have obviously KCOM, we have Connexin now as well, but at the time we could literally just pick up the phone to KCOM, say, come with internet please. Like 4 weeks later an engineer would come out, plug you in, there's your router mate, I've tested it, it works. We would plug things in and it would just seemingly work. Where like obviously in Seaham, it wasn't anything like that. It was, yeah, there's your internet, a guy disappears. We then turn back up to site and it's like, what on earth are we looking at here? You know,
you need this extra thing that this person didn't tell you about.
And there was so like maybe 3 or 4 more stages, and it's like now, even now still, when you look at it, it's
a big old unit. I remember that engineer came out about 3-4 different times. Every time he came out, I was like, oh yeah, by the way, did I tell you to get this? Oh well, you needed that, sorry. I remember, where we drove, all the way down like 2 hours, basically back to Hull.
Was it?
To get some kind
the
of
big
box.
switch.
Some big box. Took them like 2 minutes to bring it out to us, and then we were straight back in the car, coming back up to plug it in, and they go, oh yeah, no, you needed something else as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a challenge. But for me, I think what we did real well with CM as well is, I remember when the equipment was just about arriving, we were still painting walls and stuff like that, and members was coming in seeing how much of a premium facility we was building. And I think when you look at the market that we sit in, we do sit in a affordable premium site. Like there is some gyms out there that have these real high price tags but actually provide less than us. They might have that extra little nicety of like a swimming pool, but service wise, I don't think they're on pound for pound for our size that's going to ever beat us on it. So going up to see him as well and seeing how shocked it was when we was talking to people, obviously like Josh, yourself and other members of the staff, the coaching, where it was like, we aren't going to charge you rent. It was the first thing we did up there, and everyone was like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah,
like I remember obviously Johnny, PT, I remember obviously having an interview with him one day, and he turned up in a I think a pair of shorts, this big coat, and I'm walking around and I introduced myself, and I think because I was maybe like tiling or something like that, obviously I was you know, looked like a worker, like obviously on the site. So I think when I introduced myself as the owner, I think he sort of looked and was like, yeah, no you're not, like where is he? Anyway, like told him round, said, look, this is how it works, this is what we're going to be doing, this is obviously how I believe a gym should be. You know, we're not looking at obviously charging you rents or anything like that. He kind of looked at me like questioning it, as if it was the truth, as if it was right. And then I think he messaged me on the night saying, can I come back in tomorrow? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm still here. Still got this wall to tile or whatever it is I'm doing. So then, anyway, the next day he turned up in a suit, shirt and tie. And I'm like,
yeah, I remember you told us that.
Now what you doing? Yeah. I'm like, what have you come for? And I think he just sort of like booked himself in for like a second interview and was like, oh no, I've turned up today to be serious about it. And I think like, you know, he obviously snapped up the opportunity, I think, obviously to move in. And obviously I'm guessing, obviously, I mean, you obviously see him on a daily basis, but I'm guessing obviously it's benefited him, obviously Fit24 coming to the area.
Yeah, massively.
But again, we started off with, I believe, 10 people at CM when we first opened up. Staff?
Yeah, about 10.
You didn't join us until a little bit after. But I remember saying to everybody, I was like, look, like, I'd be very surprised if 12 months from now, like, you 10 are still with us. You know, as much as I'd love everybody to get on board as day one, start pulling in the same direction and so on, like, I just knew that that's not how it works, like, within any business, no matter how big you are. Obviously, you come on board how long after?
2 weeks, I think.
A little bit after, not that long after. And then, you know, obviously as the first year went on, it was this had changed, that had changed. You know, someone leaves, new person comes on board. But to the point now where everybody works with quite a good, obviously, amount of synergy. You know, leading into them, we have people that work, obviously, wholesale, that are then, you know, key for obviously seeing to benefit and obviously to operate. You guys obviously come down on a monthly basis anyway for our monthly catch-ups where we see obviously what we've done over the last 4 weeks and obviously then what we plan to do moving forward, how we're looking to progress, all that kind of stuff. You know, so there's a good, I believe, like system now in terms of how like Fit24 operates. So, you know, when we look at, mentioned obviously expanding, being able to go into another site and so on, going into it again, you know, we've got everything in place now to just be able to go, right, look, we can provide you with all this support remotely. And then, you know, we would probably be looking at one, if not two people, to then obviously look at it from a management point, to then obviously also be working direct with us in terms of, right, well, this is how we operate. This is obviously how you need to then, you know, push this culture back into that new site. And again, I think because we've had that test now of it took, you know, 8-9 years to obviously really get the model right in terms of the first one. But then 5 years after that model is then like, right, that's correct. We've then opened up 2 more clubs, which obviously have then both done well and obviously gained a very large beneficial obviously membership, you know, for each independent.
Yeah, because I think the initial question was, how do I think that SEAM grew so fast? And I think what's probably worth like kind of dressing over is the model in terms of the structure that was in place, how the staff operated, how the members interacted with Fit24, what Fit24 provided the members. That from 2.5 years ago to today is, albeit 2.5 years ago was good enough to cultivate the amount of members that we've got now. I think what a lot of people don't realise, and it because it genuinely is pretty unique to Fit24, is there's constantly a team of like say 6 to 10 people all working on the product is like a dynamic thing. Because again, I think from the point in the industry that I came from, the operators that I'd worked for had the badge to say, oh, we've been open 25 years. But if you jumped in a time machine, went back 25 years, the actual quality of what you were getting was the same, but to no sort of benefit to the member. Whereas if you picked up one of our members today and took them back 2.5 years ago, the service would still be great, but they would notice the difference between what we are now as an operator to what we were before. But even 2.5 years ago, we were still so much further ahead than so many other operators within our same space with how we did, that the reason I think we grew so fast and the reason we'll continue to grow as a company now is because we're not only so willing and open to allow feedback from members for us to work on the business and work on the product, is that we're constantly, between all of us, reinvesting such a significant amount of time, which is so rare, because typically people have a job, turn up to work, do the same thing in repetitive motion that they've been doing for 40 hours a week for the last 10 years because the company's never changed, and just go home and they don't think about it. But I think if we could like really stress one thing, obviously members who do know it or members who don't, or people who aren't even members to Fit24, like so much of what we introduced comes from the passion, but also the education that's continuous of everyone that works for the company. And not only did see him grow so quick because the original service again was so good, but everything that we've introduced since, because we're so willing to learn, to adapt, to grow with our membership base, is probably the main reason why CM has continued to grow and Hull has continued to grow from that point.
Well, like if I look back, you know, like 10, 11 plus years, and look at what a gym was. Like a gym was where young people went to try and get as big as they could, strong as they can. Older people went because it's something that they'd always done, but it wasn't necessarily like fashionable. Where you've got a big audience now of people that go because it's like ingrained, like part of their lifestyle. You know, because again, you're going back to like previous generations, they was in a position where they probably come off the back of playing sport, then just happened to keep up a gym. and they wouldn't probably revisit it until obviously like health concerns come knocking on the door, and then they go, well, I need to like lose weight or start exercising more, get my blood pressure down, whatever it would be. Where, you know, since like the likes of like your Gymshark has grown, Instagram's come around and things like that, it has now got to the point where people are so, like I said, like it's ingrained into their general, I get up in the morning, pack a bag, I'm going to go to work today, but the gym is my third space. So you have home, you have work, you have the gym, and it's just part of people's routine. They automatically will believe that in 6 weeks' time they're going to be going to the gym. In 6 months' time they're going to be going to the gym, and it gets them to the point of as well as people have become so much more self-motivated and educated as well now to continuously go to the gym. So for us as a provider, you then look at it and go, well, do you want to sit as like a budget club and just be like, you know, accessible to everybody? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Or do you want to sit like as a premium and be like right at the top? And then like say, for example, be charging like really high memberships and offering like swimming pools and things like that. But then you've also got to look at like life again and go, well, how quick is it now? How fast paced is it? And like I've always believed, like we will probably never do a pool, like at even any location that comes up in the future, even if we had the space to do one, just because like I don't really know anybody that has a pool, that has the time to use a pool. And again, then when I look at it from a functional point of view, it's like, well, you can come into the gym and you can train for 45, 60 minutes in the studio in the main gym space, and you will have a lot more benefit from doing that than what you would if you was to go and do a few lengths in a pool, or, you know, go and do a bit of walking or whatever. I mean, even like older people that they promote going swimming is great for them. Well, you've got to look at it as a matter of fact, it's probably not. If you're older and you are an able-bodied person, and someone then says to you, well, you should go to a pool to keep your strength and your fitness up. Well, actually what you're doing is making it easier for you, because obviously, you for easy way of putting it, you weigh less in a pool, so there's less resistance on your body. So you could be 50, 60 years old, be in amazing shape, think to yourself, oh, I'm getting older now, I'm going to retire, I'm not going to be as physical, I'm going to go swimming instead. You will have a faster decline in health through loss of strength and mobility and so on than what you would if you was actually keeping the gym space. And again, because the point I'm getting at is that people are aware of this, they're educated. I think one thing that hasn't been given enough respect is how educated like the average person is that does come to a gym. So you go on about service, and I believe if we wasn't up there with service, if we wasn't up there with like the level of communication that we have with our members and how open we are to be able to pivot so quickly to change, then our membership would always be looking, just like we're always looking to improve. We need to stay ahead of the membership, because the membership is also looking to improve. Members are always looking for that, well, what's best? You know, and for us, it's about getting Fit24 in a position where we then become best in class. You know, you've seen obviously the growth, like you've been with us, like you said, just over about 2.5 years now. Obviously, you've been with us for pretty much the entire journey of Fit24, where you've been a member prior, because I used to let you in when you was a young kid.
You set me up before I was even 12, mate.
You know, it's hustle, mate.
Proper dodge this. Made me go get a signature. I said, my parents out about it. He went, just go get someone to sign it.
Get someone to sign this. I'll look after it.
It's commendable commitment to the fitness of the younger generation. That's
yeah,
what
this
it
is it. Well, I just think, you know, so many gyms, like they go, you know, young people, like how you catch it. You know, I used to wear things where people used to say stunt your growth and all sorts of stuff, and it's like, nah, that's a myth.
Well, none of us are 6 foot.
You know, just saying that, yeah. I do struggle when it comes to height, top shelf stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, we've got, you know, plans to obviously keep expanding. Like, at some point, I'd love to do be almost like a glorified, like, youth club, in which case it would have, like, fitness and health. It'd be like its first step in direction. And you'd be aiming at, like, 10 to 15 years of age, because that's something where, yes, they can come and use our gyms. However, like, they are, like, intermixing with that real fast-paced environment, and sometimes it's not the best place for them to be in if they're not open-minded or, like, on the same path in terms of, like, I'm going to go there, and it's got to be, like, an adult mentality in terms of respect.
Yeah.
So, again, like, for what I would love to do at some point is then to be able to open up, like, a separate facility, which is then youth-based for certain hours, elderly-based for the other side. Break down that stigma of, you know, gyms out for kids or gyms out for older people, and then provide them with a space where they can go and then they can interact, speak to people, get like off to a really good start in health in their life, rather than just, you know, I mean, there's nowhere for them to go now. Like, you know, youth clubs are gone, but again, like I digress a little bit. I'll save that for another time. But yeah, I think, you know, we've gone from, you know, leaps and bounds, haven't we? I think in terms of progress.
Yeah, when we first started here, we had limited techno gym equipment. I was here when we had the old, I don't even know what brand of treadmill it was, by the way. It just said True on it.
Yeah.
Green button, click go, you could adjust it maybe if it worked. And now you look at our treadmills, this is just one of the key points as well. Our treadmills now are that advanced that you don't need to know what you're doing to come in and go on a treadmill. You can click quick start still. Obviously, a lot of people still just do that, but you've got sessions and programs and it's all linked to your phone and your app, which is where I think it's great now for modern generations, because you can come into a gym, not know what you're doing, and get guidance without having to. Not everyone's a confident person, you know. People are like, oh, I don't really want to go up to them and ask. And even though we have the friendliest reception team, people are always going to still be shy if they're shy at nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, the fact that people can come in, scan in with a phone, then log into a treadmill, and it tailors them a plan, helps them get towards where they might feel a bit more comfortable to come and talk to us, is a great step. And I think that because we constantly reinvest to the point where our chest press, you can log into that now. You can scan the QR code next to it, log your sets. Everything that we have inside of our gym is all compatible with each other. That makes it so much easier for the younger generations alongside the older generations, who I know do originally struggle with getting the app set up. That's why we're here. Speaking from experience, I set an older woman up who's on our over 70s pass, so she gets the gym for free. Set her up with the app, showed her how to use it. She now logs into the treadmills each day to track her progress, and she's actually following on the treadmills one of the sessions. You know, it goes through different episodes of training. She's doing one of them, smashing it. And yeah, for me, it's just great to see that the younger generations who come in and already know what they're doing with like technology can interact now with actual physical things, whereas older generations who are used to interacting with physical products can now go digital, all from a space that obviously we create, which to me is insane.
And again, like we obviously aren't, I was laughing with a guy earlier, and I'd said, you know, it's funny because obviously a lot of people still believe that like gyms, they'll drive by it, it's a place that they know they should go because they know they get some kind of benefit from it, but they take a look at it and they go, oh, it's just going to be full of bodybuilders in there, it's going to be full of this in there. But, you know, in reality, like you look around, it's full of everybody. Like people come, some people are stronger than others, some people are faster than others, some people are bigger than others, some people are smaller than others, but everybody comes for the same purpose. They just want to improve. I'd probably say, like, you know, most of our membership are keen on keeping like their health and wellness, like, you know, to a point where they are always improving. But like life's for living, and they've kind of got that mentality of, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to train, I'm going to enjoy it. Some people do require a bit more guidance, and obviously then we've got the coaching, like you mentioned earlier, that you run up and see, and Amy runs down here. But for the most part, again, going back into what I was saying, like people come with a target, with a goal, and we're able to then obviously align that goal and say, well, this is what you need to be doing. If they come for 3, 4, 5 weeks, I mean, just as I was saying the other day, how I learned, when I went to a gym, I was okay to be, you know, sort of copying off other people. Other people would come over to me and like correct me every now and again, or try like this, try like that instead. And I see a lot of that in here, where people won't be shy to go up to somebody and just say, look, like, do you mind giving me a bit of advice? Whether that be a member of staff, another member. We've had members introduce us to new members and obviously say, look, this is Dave, for example. Dave's just come over to me and asked me for a couple of questions, but I'm going to bring him over to you, and could you go through with him like what he needs to? So it's good because we can then direct him to speak to Amy or whoever they need to be, or just show them an exercise that they're not too keen on, not too sure on before ever done. But again, like I think overall, originally circling back to like the community within the gyms are really strong, and again, it's partly because of every little thing that we've mentioned so far in terms of progressing, whether it be the social aspect of like our delivery of service, whether it be the improvements that we've then brought in from having, you know, a full wall-to-wall techno gym kind of experience and ecosystem there, that we then have the support to then go, well, we can improve and improve and improve. And again, it's not one of them where we go, oh, we've improved now, and we just sit. You know, we already know what we're going to be doing in like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
So obviously, Josh, you are our guest on this episode, so I just think like it's best to ask you like a couple of questions. Now, one thing I will really commend Josh for is, especially building a community for CM, is you've brought something you enjoy doing into our facility, which is High Rocks. So you've obviously incorporated that, and I've seen it on our Instagrams throughout the last couple of weeks. I think you've got another, is it a charity simulation coming up again?
Yeah, just at the end of the month.
So you see, to me, that's a really good thing that you brought a bit of your own character and evolved us as a company, because High Rocks is a massive thing at the minute. And now it's not particularly my ballpark, and I don't think it's yours either.
No.
But you do it really well, and you brought that now into us, which now builds a better community. So, like, for me, I think the question I am trying to ask you is, one, what is it about High Rocks that you like? And two, how do you think like that's helped you build your community at CU?
Yeah, there's a couple of different like ways I can go about answering this, so I'm going to try and touch on all of the bases so it sort of makes sense. So, I've been in fitness since I was 16, so like 8 years. And one thing that I found is I never really latched onto any sort of training with any great intent. One of the main reasons I believe that was the case is because I worked within facilities with people who were never willing to educate me correctly or foster and help my relationship build with any sort of training. So I kind of just meandered around for a while. High Rocks came into the picture originally once I'd moved on to Fit24, when my mum, who is a massive fan of like diversifying and doing different sorts of training, who would have been at the time, say 56 years old, introduced me to this style of training that she was really passionate about. Now, I'm a massive fan of like then going away and educating myself. So I remember going home, looking into High Rocks as a format, which briefly is 8 1 kilometre runs kind of split up between like loads of different stations. And I remember seeing that going, it looks quite good that. But I remember texting my mum going, you can't do that, surely. Because I think at the time, again, I was uneducated, I was a bit younger, I was a bit naive. And I remember the next day my mum coming in and going, you really need to give this a go, because what you're not realising is the reason why it's developed the way that it is because for your body to work functionally to the best of its ability, all of these movements and everything that you're doing in this is not only cardio based, so all the training you're doing is looking after your health, you're also moving in 8 different ways, which are like the movement patterns that your body is supposed to be able to do. So it's catered towards ages and abilities of anyone from a child essentially all the way through to someone who, albeit they have use of all of their limbs, can do it to like a scalable version. And I remember for the first time kind of sitting going, well, that's really good. My mum did our first race in Manchester in 2022, and I remember going along for the first time. I'd never been exposed to like any sort of events before on the larger scale for fitness. And what I also then realised is through watching the day full of races that there were so many people out there who were not only celebrating people doing this style of fitness, understanding it was hard, but the biggest age category they also had was 75 plus, and there was a load of people doing it. In the event that I went to in Manchester, I think across 2 days, the touch base of like 20,000 people. So I then thought, right, I've been doing this training now for a little bit. I've been really enjoying it. I enjoy it for very simple reasons, because it gives me structure. It gives us something to aim towards. And realistically, why do I not want to share that with other people? Because structure, accountability, and education are sort of not only the 3 things that I think Fit24 does really well, but also what people need when they first step away from these other proprietors in the same space, and they haven't had that before. So we then, between myself and Jack, who is one of the other coaches at CM, decided that we're now going to try and put sessions on completely open and catered towards beginners, just to kind of see how it went. Obviously High Rocks was on this like meteoric ascension at the time, so at the same time we thought, well, not only can we obviously put some ads out to say come and try this new style of training that you may have seen, it was also we spent a lot of time really trying to speak to people and stress that don't worry about what you may have seen online. This sort of training is catered towards everybody. And that was like, when was it? I think we started that sort of process of like introducing it into the club like last September. The first ever session that we ran was like a big event. We shut off the other half of the gym, which is like the functional space. And I remember sitting with like Jack going through it when we first thought about the concept of introducing what most people would see as this like untouchable form of training to like what would be the general population of people, and going, no one's going to turn up. But then we very quickly realised that we were responsible for like pushing this down the same way that my mum did to me when she first introduced it, of going, it's for everybody, it's basic patterns, it's scalable. And to go forward from there to then run that event, I think we ended up selling like 50, 60 tickets, which when me and Jack originally set a target, I think it was like 20. And not only did the event go well, since that point, we've had people take on higher levels of coaching within the clubs based around wanting to compete at these events, which is potentially one of like the greatest things as someone who really enjoys coaching people, to not only inspire them to do something different with training, but to take it to that extent has been really nice to see. But also there are people who had come from other gyms who never really had a direction with training, that from a very simple conversation of us trying to pick up a style of training to introduce to people, have like this newfound purpose in their fitness, which is hybrid training or high rocks, who, if you ask them now what their opinion is on now training in gyms, would be completely different, purely because we originally picked up high rocks and I enjoyed it and thought it was really useful to obviously put into the gyms. And I think obviously now we've got groups of people again. There's an event in Glasgow in like 40 days time. We're taking a group of everybody up. They're all staying together, eating together. And I think for me, the way that I think it was originally going to work and the way that I think it's worked now is introducing that has made the community that we already had like so much stronger, now giving people even more of like a common ground.
That man's one.
Nah, so I think that was a brilliant insight from yourself, Josh. Obviously, unfortunately, I am going to have to shoot, so we're going to have to cut this video slightly shorter than we normally would, because I'm off to go live my life at Creamfields for 4 or 5 days. So unfortunately that's where we're going to have to end today's video, but obviously it'll be a pleasure to get you back on in a future episode. Obviously, like we said earlier, we do have the monthly market meetings, so it might be a case that we film a video all together, obviously edit in some of the footage from our meetings, and that'll be a podcast monthly that we continue doing. But no, that was brilliant from me. If you guys can obviously drop us a like, follow, subscribe. This is our first episode. Unfortunately, this is actually our second episode. The first episode just didn't record properly. That was our own fault.
But
But hopefully this one works perfectly. We can get this out to you guys as soon as possible. Thanks, guys.